sure, first official fall practice, but how much is today just a continuation of all the work you've done all summer?
Well, you said it. It's not like I'm old enough to remember, obviously, the October 15th date when we would start. What's so different now is we have so many more hours with these guys. So obviously we've been going at it this summer and here in the fall. I think what is different now is now we're officially in the 20 hours a week. So the intensity, the length of what we're doing definitely ramps up. It's going to be cool. We'll start in Williams Arena today, which is awesome. We hadn't been in there a ton, but be purposeful about being in that arena probably at least 2 times a week, sometimes more, because that's where we play. I think you can look at the calendar and start seeing, exhibitions only a little over 3 weeks away, and so I think the guys can start seeing the season on the horizon here.
Nico, what do you like most about this roster?
Man, I've said it over and over again, but I just really love them as human beings. I mean, I think their approach so far has been terrific. They've come in every day. They've been really, really coachable, tried to do what we ask them to do. And so just the way they've gone about their business every day really, really excites me. And I think because of that, this group is going to continue to get better.
What do you feel like, Nico, the major things that you've accomplished so far in putting your culture in?
I think from a culture perspective, I think it's just the unselfishness, the way we go about our business every day, the way we treat people. I think those things have been really good. Just the daily approach and the habits of how these guys work. I'm starting to see those things. I think as far as how we play, we spent a lot of time in the early summer installing our offense. I think kind of as you're starting to, teach the things that you want to see and you emphasize seeing the buy-in there, I think that's a cultural thing for us. And I've seen a team that's really played unselfish so far in the summer. Now, the lights aren't on. There's no opponent across from us. But I think those things from a cultural perspective have been really encouraging so far.
What are staples of your offense? Like, what exactly will it look like from our standpoint?
Spacing, ball movement. I think you'll see a team that off the ball, you don't see a lot of standing around. There's a lot of guys who are involved in what we're doing, and so when the ball's moving and people are moving, I think that's been a staple of what we do. And again, it's one thing to do it in the summer. It's a lot different thing to do it as you start really getting up and down and you get fatigued and there's another opponent across from you, and figuring out that balance where sometimes we want to take the first available great shot. I am the head coach. I do get to decide what a great shot is. But again, this is a game where you want your players, I'm not here to tell them what to do. I'm trying to teach them how to think. And so just how we get that balance of being aggressive but still playing unselfish is just something that's going to take time. But I think the fans will see clearly the way we move the ball, the way we space, the way we cut.
You talked about kind of implementing your offense first in the summer. What are the things you want to see defensively?
I'm hopeful that we have some versatility, in particularly on the wings when you got some length, some guys who can guard different guys, a toughness, a grit about us, the way we communicate. I think that's something we started to do at the end of the summer and has really been, an emphasis for us here in the fall. I think a lot like offense, I think you have to figure out as a coach kind of what some of your strengths are and what might be potential shortcomings, and who can pressure the ball, who maybe can't be as aggressive. Again, who are our disruptors? Those kinds of things. Rebounding. How are we going to rebound? What are some things that we can switch? Just learning how to read and play off each other's strengths and weaknesses. But again, we're a team that's going to play mostly man-to-man. We'll play some zone, but right now we're just at the infant stages of doing what we do.
Nico, do you feel like you're moving into a more physical league in terms of physical style? And if so, how do you adjust, or how do you address that from a coaching standpoint?
Well, we are. I mean, I think the Big Ten arguably is the most physical league in the country. I'll say this. I think it's something that people who've watched us, especially the last, 2 to 3 years, we've been a pretty physical team. I was talking to some coaches in our league on the road this summer, and Boise State, those guys say, gosh, it just felt like, you guys were fouling us on every possession. And I'm like, well, that's good. That means we were doing our job. And So we have to play incredibly physically, even though we're a little bit undersized. That's something that has to be a staple of what we're doing. But I agree. I mean, even at a whole new level coming into this league, because every night you go out, you're playing against guys who coach that way, and in my opinion, is the most physical league in the country.
When you start practice, do you have just a standard theme that you do every year the first few weeks, or is there some things from the summer that carry over specifically you want to hit on, or a mesh point between the two?
I think, Dave, it's almost really just kind of a continuum, a continuity of what we've been doing. I don't make today any bigger than what it is. Again, the guys have been going at it pretty good. They can maybe start to see the season on the horizon, but we're just continuing to do what we've done, and it's just, listen, you guys said it's about today, right? And I think yesterday I was at a thing with my family, and my family's laying out the Big Ten schedule, and yeah, I can see this or whatever, and I'm like, they know it better than I do, because I honestly, you just kind of focus on today, right? What do we got to do today to get better? We still got a long ways to go to become the best version of ourselves.
What were those games that they were circling or talking about?
Just, they're talking about the Big Ten, right? And they're asking when the times are going to come out. And I believe that's right. We open up at home against Indiana, and then I think we go to Purdue. I haven't even looked any further than that. I may have seen, I think we've got Iowa and Wisconsin at home earlier in the calendar, but I don't know. They were laying out all this stuff and who we go to and who comes here. And honestly, I look at it and glance, but that just seems so far down the horizon right now. So,
Having a chance to work with them the last few months, what stood out to you about Isaac?
He's obviously he's a really talented young man, but he's just an exceptional dude. I mean, I just love being around this guy every day. He's got a great smile about him. You see him, if he were to walk in here, he'd make you think that, you were his best friend. And he's that way with everybody. It doesn't matter whether it's my children, somebody he ran into at the state fair. If you see him today, he's out there shooting on the court. It's kind of the same thing every day. And he just reminds me a lot of the guys that we've had that have really had success, that he's a really talented guy. He's a great human being. He just needs to continue to get better and kind of find that fire, in him, and that confidence that he can really be a guy. And I think you'll start to see him grow that way this year.
Nico, you mentioned being undersized. I mean, was that by design, or is that just the challenges of roster building?
I think it's a challenge of the roster building too. As you got to put a whole new team together. You've got some of the realities of NIL and where are you spending your resources and all those things too. So yeah, we're a little bit undersized, but I think we got some tough guys. And listen, just because a guy's big doesn't mean he's a great rebounder, or he's a smart player and he's a tough player and all those things. So, but yeah, I do think we're going to be a little bit undersized at times this year in this league, but that's okay. You know what I mean? We got to find a way to mitigate that and find what our strengths are and how can we leverage those.
What does having Jalen do to communicate messages to players?
Awesome. I mean, I tell you what, like, that young man has had as good of a summer and fall as I could have expected. He has just been awesome in every way. I mean, the guys would tell you, and the coaches who hadn't coached him before, he's just a warrior on both ends of the floor. He's a terrific defensive player. He's really physical. He's shooting the ball well from three. Finds ways to score. Especially against smaller guys. And the way he leads, he's not the most vocal guy in the world. He's vocal when he needs to be, but just the example that he's set for how you do things, it's been hard to ask more from him.
We see that you have 3 players in the 26 recruiting class. How much more might that grow?
Possibility for one more, potentially. It's got to be the right guy. We're not trying to make it up. We've got some guys that have visited that we really, really like, and so we'll see kind of where that goes. But, after that, we're pretty happy with the class that we have.
Is that the kind of roster building that you want to see, is 3 to maybe 4 each year, or is that fluctuating?
Honestly, without getting into the weeds, I think some of that's going to be depending upon what happens here with the NCAA. We could be in a situation where we go to this 5-5, 5-for-5 ruling here. It could even happen as early as October. That's going to change everything. where all of a sudden everybody gets a fifth year. Just imagine that scenario. If that rule were to pass this year, what that's going to look like, in the spring and moving forward. So I think there's a little bit maybe of a holding pattern for everybody kind of to see where this goes. We always want to recruit high school players, but how many? I think there's just, we'll have to see where this goes.
Where do you come down on that 5 for 5?
You know what I've learned through this? It doesn't really matter where I come down. You know what I mean? It is what it is, right? Things are going to happen, and you've got to evolve. So I don't know if my opinion really matters. It's just a matter of time. I mean, you just look at all the waivers that were going on all over the country in every situation. Hopefully, we get to a point where there's just the waiver stuff, is over, except for maybe some extenuating circumstances, a medical red shirt, maybe a coaching change or something like that potentially. But, you get 5 to play 5, which meaning kind of red shirt doesn't even really exist anymore is kind of the theory. So I think it's inevitable that that's going to happen. It's just a matter of whether it happens this year or next year. And, obviously if it's going to happen this year, it has to happen before football season's over.
Are there
Anything
any,
you know about this job that you didn't know when you accepted it back in March?
Not really. I mean, nothing that really stands out, to me. Obviously, I think I had it's my 4th head coaching job, the 3rd one at a place where I had been before and, have some familiarity with. And, I've said it over and over again. And I knew it was there. It stands out to me, just the underlying support there is for the U. People really love the U. I think there's a lot of people in this community that have been here a long time that do have an affinity for Gopher basketball. And really are looking for something to get back and cheer about on a consistent basis. They've had some success, but they want that success consistently. So I don't know that there's anything that's really surprised me other than, maybe there's daily things here and there, but nothing that really stands out.
are there any injury or illness concerns going into practice now? And how many guys, when you get into the season, ideally, do you think you want to play?
To your second part of the question, I think most of the time, coach is going to, we're going to play 9 guys, right? I think you'd like to see a 9-person rotation. Could there be 10 in a pinch? Yeah, I've sometimes that can be challenging, but there is probably a scenario where we could play 10 this year. But typically, it's going to be 9 and possibly 10, especially in the front court. You might have room for another player. From a health perspective, we're actually probably healthier than we've ever been. BJ Ahmet just got cleared fully on Friday. So this is his first action in over a year. He's been building up, but getting him back out there has been great for us. So now as we start practice, he's going to be out there. That gives us another player that we're really, really excited about. Rabiola too. He's been going about full go for about 3 weeks here. So honestly, this is about as healthy as we've been. Chance Stevens, he's still, is still dealing, with an illness that he has not been able to do anything yet. I don't really know where that's gonna lead. And then Max Gizzy, who we took, who's just been exceptional, especially in practice with these guys. He broke his foot right at the end of the summer, had surgery, so we're probably looking at another 6 weeks or so before we get him back. But other than that, honestly, it's probably about as healthy as we've been. Thank you.